Hi everyone. Today we're going to continue talking about water. If you should need to get a hold of me, my email address is on the screen. Let's jump right in today. To start with, when we look at planet Earth from space, planet Earth is sometimes called the blue marble because all the swirls on it and all the colors make it look a little bit like a marble. Um, Earth is often also called a water planet. Now, that doesn't mean it's a planet made entirely of water, but it's because our planet has a lot of water. When we look at the surface of our planet, over 70% of the surface of our planet is covered in oceans. And I feel like in some ways, when we look at Earth from far away, I feel like it's a little misleading. So, really, the question that I want us to be thinking about today is, well, how much water do we have here on Earth? So, this image gets us a long way to helping understand that. This is Earth with all of its water drained away and put into these tiny droplets. Okay, so let's look in the there's three droplets here. So we have this bigger droplet, we have a somewhat smaller droplet, and if you look just inside my cursor right here, you can see that there is in fact a very tiny droplet here. Okay, so this largest droplet, this one actually shows if we took all the water on Earth and we pulled it off Earth and we put it in a ball next to Earth or into a little sphere, that's how much water we would have. And honestly, that's significantly less than most people think that there is. And so this represents all of Earth's water as compared to the actual size of Earth itself. Now, if we look at this smaller little droplet of water here, not the smallest one, but the medium-sized one, this shows all of what we call our fresh water. Okay, so this is all water, this is all fresh water. And then I want to look at this tiniest droplet because it is very almost invisible at this scale. This tiniest droplet that's here beneath, that represents what we find in Earth's rivers and its streams and in its lakes. Okay, so the first thing that you should be thinking is, aha, that's not quite as much water as I maybe thought there was. Okay, so there's a little less water, even though we are a water planet. We also need to think about salt water versus fresh water. And the easiest way to understand that is to sort of look at a comparison very quickly. When we talk about fresh water, we're talking about water that has very little salt dissolved into it. Now, salts are really just a group of minerals, and almost all water has some salt in it because almost all water has some minerals in it. But if we see if we have a sample of water that has very little salt, we generally will call that fresh water. Okay. Salt water, on the other hand, it has lots of dissolved salt, so it's going to have lots of salt particles in it, and that is a primary difference. We don't really have pure water. Even when we talk about fresh water, we're not talking about something that's completely pure, that's only water. There are generally other things mixed in with that water, and often those things are salts. So when we look at that Earth's total water again, and we start thinking, okay, how much of it is salt and how much of it is fresh water? It turns out that over 97% of the water we have here on Earth is salt water. Now, that turns out to be important because salt water is not drinkable. It is not usable by most living things. If you've tried to drink only salt water, it would make you hypertonic, which is a condition that would eventually kill you. Okay, and so salt water we mostly find, of course, in the oceans. So 97% of all of Earth's water is unusable for most living things. We also have about 2% of Earth's water here in the green, this little wedge that's going to be locked up in ice. Now we're really talking about near Earth's poles. We're talking about near the North Pole and the South Pole. We have huge ice sheets there. We have ice caps, sea ice, icebergs. Uh, we also, of course, elsewhere on the globe have glaciers and snow. But we have a lot of this water that's just frozen. It's locked up and it can't be used by humans. It's not drinkable because we find it at the poles. Okay? And then when we look at this very tiny darker blue sliver here, this is actually Earth's fresh water. So this is the water that we often think of. This is lakes and rivers and streams and springs and groundwater and even the water vapor in the atmosphere. But when we look and consider that 97% of Earth's water is not drinkable, that should be meaningful for us. We have a very tiny amount of drinkable water. Now, many of you already know that all living things need water to survive. Some of you may even have heard of this rule of threes, where you can go 3 minutes without air, or 3 days without water, or 3 weeks without food. I mean, water is something that is needed for your survival and for the survival of other living things. Um, really only air turns out to be a lot more important for us. Now, something that is not a thing we deal with on a daily basis is this idea that water is scarce. And so, this is water scarcity. This really means that there are many people on the planet who don't have access to enough clean, drinkable water, and they have to go to really extreme measures to have enough water to survive. Yeah, so water scarcity affects about 1 in 3 people. If we look worldwide, 1 out of every 3 people are not going to have access to enough clean drinking water. Uh, we have more than 10% of people worldwide, in fact, who are drinking water that has things in it that might be poisonous for them, that might be bad, that's contaminated. We're going to look more at pollution as we move forward. But I do want you to know we need water to survive, and not everyone has that amount. Not everyone has enough clean water at this time. So when it gets down to the bottom bit of it, water can be scarce. There's not a lot of fresh water. Most of the water is in the oceans, and water is life. Without water, there is no life. It's one of the things that makes our planet so special. And this last little bit down here, and it soon may be more precious than gold. Really, what that alludes to is if we continue to destroy water, to pollute water, to contaminate water, and there's less and less and less of it, then it becomes a very, very valuable resource. Right now, many of us look at water and say, "Oh, water is just water," because it's all around us and we have plenty of it. But if we didn't have plenty of it, we couldn't survive, then it would be far more precious than gold. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for today. I hope you have a good day. See you soon.